Okay, I want to talk floating and clearing inside a div because divs are going to be pretty much the backbone of this next portion of the unit. And moving forward in web design, everything's a div. Everything goes inside divs pretty much. All right, we're in unit 2. Show you a little shortcut. I've got an index.html, shift 1 on my keyboard, press enter, boom, good to go. I can link to my style sheet. In my head section, I can just type in link and press tab and my name of my style sheet. Don't worry about all this extra jumbo mumbo. Doesn't really mean anything to us right now. Just leave it. You can delete it. Doesn't matter. All right. You should follow along with this one because this one's kind of a bit confusing. A div is just a container, right? So I'm going to make a div container. There we go. There's my div. I've created a section on my website. This div has nothing in it, so blank page. Let's put something in my div. Let's put an image inside my div. And it looks like I've got the same images from last video, so we'll keep using them. All right, there's an image in my div. Doesn't need to be that big. Let's make it smaller. All right, so now I've got something in my div so I can actually see my div. So to illustrate that, I'm going to,
there is an AP information
there is an announcement on the speaker right now. I don't know if you can hear that.
Advanced placement program next year at Corpus Plains. We are in the gym theater, which is right next to the girls' washroom. Please come and find us. Thank you.
All right, cool. AP meeting. Did you guys hear that? Okay, cool. All right. So this is my div. I've given my div a background. Divs are block elements, so they span the entire width of my website. And let's throw some text in my div. So let's use some default lorem ipsum text just to fill it up. Picture is an inline. Paragraph is a block, so it goes on the next line. It creates a new line for itself. Last video we learned, hey, I can wrap this text around my block, around my image, I should say. How do I do that? Well, we learned of the lovely float property. So I can float this image, and I guess I already have my image up here. I can change the float property to stick it to the left, and everything flows around it. Now if I shrink my website, you can see it more adequately. What if I don't want my div to span the entire website? Well, it's a good thing I can change the width of this div. And I could say, okay, be 500 pixels. But that's not always good practice. What you might want to start doing is using percents. So I could say, hey, fill up 50% of my website, of my browser. So now it doesn't matter how small or big my browser is, it's only going to fill 50% of it. And there we go. I've got a nice lovely div that is containing some elements. Problem here. My div, my image looks like it is protruding outside of my div. Because this is my div. I put a background color so I could see the div. But I've got this image which is bigger than the div. And all we need to do to fix that, there is a lovely property called Overflow. So this image is flowing over my div because it's bigger than what the div needs it to be, because the div only needs to be as big as this text. So for this div, I can say, you know what? Overflow. How am I going to handle any elements that overflow? Well, I'm going to auto adjust the size of myself so that I can keep all of those elements inside my div. And so now the div will adjust and it will keep that overflow, that image that was flowing over. It'll keep it inside. It'll resize itself to make sure that it fits inside this div. Much nicer. Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter the browser size that you're working with. Everything is nice and tight. I guess this div is tight. This div is touching literally the tops and bottoms of my image. Maybe I want a little space between that. So one more property we could use is padding on the div. We could give it like a 10 pixel padding, and it's basically going to extend the border so that the internal elements aren't completely touching the outsides of the div. Okay, that's probably good for now. Don't want to throw too much at you.